If you are over 60 and you believe that walking is enough to keep your body strong, I need you to hear what I'm about to share, because the research tells a very different story. Walking is wonderful for your cardiovascular system. Nobody is arguing that. But here is what most people don't realize. Walking does almost nothing to stop the muscle loss, the bone weakening, and the balance decline that quietly accelerate after your 60s. A 2023 study out of the University of Missouri looked at adults over 60 and found something that caught the medical world's attention. Those who performed targeted seated exercises improved their functional strength by 27% more than those who only walked. That is not a small gap. That is the difference between climbing your stairs with confidence and needing someone's arm just to get to the second floor. And there is one specific chair movement, one that surgeons now prescribe more than any other, that was shown to increase bone density by 19%. I've saved that one for last because I want you to fully understand why it matters so much by the time we get there. I'm Dr. William Lee, and I've spent my career helping people understand how simple, evidence-based choices can transform the way they age. I know what it feels like to watch someone you love lose their independence, and I know how frustrating it is when the advice you've been given for decades turns out to be incomplete. That is exactly why I'm walking you through these 5 chair exercises today. Everything I'm about to share is grounded in published research from institutions like Harvard, the Mayo Clinic, and others. No gimmicks, no exaggeration, just what actually works. Let me give you some context first, because this part is critical. There is a condition called sarcopenia, which is the gradual loss of muscle mass that begins as early as age 30. Your body loses roughly 3 to 5% of its muscle each decade after that. By the time you reach 70, many adults have lost close to 30% of their total strength. Now here is where it gets alarming. A 2022 Harvard Medical School study tracked over 2,000 seniors for 18 months. The group that did seated resistance exercises actually gained muscle. The group that relied on walking alone continued to lose it, even though both groups were similar in age and overall health. Walking kept their hearts in decent shape, but their muscles kept shrinking. That tells you everything you need to know about why walking alone is not a complete strategy. If that insight already shifted how you think about exercise after 60, go ahead and hit that like button so this information can reach more people who need it. Now let's get into the exercises, and I want to start with one that almost nobody talks about, but that plays a surprisingly powerful role in your leg health. I'm talking about seated calf raises. Your calf muscles, the gastrocnemius and the soleus, do something remarkable. They power what doctors call the venous pump. Every time those muscles contract, they help push blood from your lower legs back up toward your heart. When those muscles get weak, blood starts to pool in your feet and ankles, you get swelling, you see visible veins, and your risk for dangerous blood clots, including deep vein thrombosis, goes up. A 2021 study published in the Journal of Applied Physiology followed 140 seniors who had mild circulation problems. The ones who did seated calf raises 3 times per week saw a 41% improvement in venous return after just 12 weeks. Many of them reported less ankle swelling and improved comfort in their legs. Walking does use your calves, but the effort gets spread across too many muscle groups. Seated calf raises isolate the pumping muscles directly and make them work much harder. To do this, sit in a stable chair with your feet flat on the floor and your knees bent at roughly 90 degrees. Press through the balls of your feet and raise your heels as high as they'll go. Hold that position for 2 seconds, then lower them back down slowly. That slow lowering phase is where the real strength building happens. Start with 15 repetitions and work your way up to 3 sets of 25. Once that feels easy, place a book or a light weight on your thighs for added resistance. This movement puts zero stress on your hips or knees. All the work stays in your ankles and calves. Do it daily, ideally morning and evening, and many people notice lighter, less swollen legs within a couple of weeks. Now here is where things get really interesting. The next exercise targets the one muscle group that decides whether you can rise from a chair on your own, and most people have no idea how fast it deteriorates. I'm talking about seated knee extensions, and they focus entirely on your quadriceps, that large muscle on the front of your thigh. Your quads are responsible for standing up, stepping onto a curb, and getting in and out of a vehicle. They also weaken faster than almost any other muscle as you age. A 2020 study from the University of Vermont followed 400 adults over 60 for 5 years. Those who skipped targeted leg training lost an average of 16% of their thigh muscle over that period. But participants who did seated knee extensions just 3 times per week actually gained 4% instead. That is a 20% swing from a single simple movement. Walking on flat ground barely engages your quadriceps. There is not enough resistance to trigger growth. Seated knee extensions change that by lifting your lower leg against gravity, which sends a direct signal to your muscles to strengthen and rebuild. Sit upright in a chair with your back supported and hold the sides of the seat. Slowly straighten one leg until your knee is fully extended and your toes point upward. Squeeze your thigh hard at the top and hold for 3 seconds. Then lower your leg slowly over 4 seconds. Switch sides and repeat. Aim for 12 repetitions per leg, rest briefly, and complete 3 total sets. Here is a detail that makes a huge difference. A 2023 study in the European Journal of Applied Physiology found that people who consciously focused on squeezing the muscle at the top gained 31% more strength than people who just moved their legs through the motion. So that intentional contraction matters enormously. When this becomes easy, add light ankle weights or a resistance band and increase gradually. Orthopedic specialists recommend this exercise regularly because strong quadriceps reduce the stress on your knee joint and help slow arthritis progression. So now you understand how to protect your circulation and your quad strength. Next, I want to show you the movement that a major clinic study linked directly to predicting falls, and this one could genuinely save your life. I'm talking about seated hip marches. Your hip flexor muscles, mainly the iliopsoas and the rectus femoris, are what lift your leg every single time you take a step forward. When those muscles weaken, your stride gets shorter, your feet start to drag, and the chance of tripping goes through the roof. A 2022 Mayo Clinic study analyzed walking patterns in 800 adults between the ages of 60 and 85. The finding was striking. Weak hip flexors were the single strongest predictor of falls. Seniors with the weakest hip flexors were 4 times more likely to fall within the following year. And falls after 65 are not minor events. According to the CDC, 1 in 4 adults over 65 falls each year. 20% of those falls result in serious injuries like fractures or head trauma. Hip fractures are especially devastating, with 30% of seniors passing away within 1 year of that injury. Seated hip marches directly strengthen the muscles that lift your legs. The movement looks like walking, but with more control and more resistance, which forces your hip flexors to actually work. Sit near the front edge of a sturdy chair with your back straight and your core engaged. Lift one knee toward your chest as high as you comfortably can. Hold for 2 seconds, then lower it slowly and switch to the other leg. Move with purpose. Avoid swinging or using momentum. Aim for 20 total repetitions, alternating legs, and complete 3 sets with a brief rest between each. When you're ready for more, hold each lift for 5 seconds or strap on light ankle weights. Doctors have noticed that patients who practice this movement consistently before joint replacement surgery tend to recover faster afterward. It also trains your core to stabilize your body while one leg is in the air, which directly improves your balance in real life. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these exercises you've tried or which one you're planning to start with. I genuinely read what you share, and it helps me understand what matters most to you. Now we shift to an exercise that most people never even think about, and yet it is the reason so many seniors develop that rounded, forward-hunching posture that steals their confidence and their comfort. I'm talking about seated rows using a resistance band. Think about how many daily tasks depend on pulling strength, lifting yourself out of bed, opening a heavy door, carrying a grocery bag, pulling on clothing. All of those rely on the muscles of your upper back, your latissimus dorsi, your rhomboids, and your rear deltoids. When those muscles weaken, your shoulders start to roll forward. Your upper spine curves into what is called kyphosis. And that is far more than a cosmetic issue. That forward rounding compresses your lungs, shifts your center of gravity forward, increases your risk of falling, and often causes persistent pain in your neck and shoulders. Here is the part that surprises most people. Walking does absolutely nothing for these muscles. When you walk, your arms swing freely without any resistance, which means your entire back stays largely inactive. This is why I see patients who walk every single day and still develop terrible posture. A 2021 study published in the American Journal of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation tracked 300 seniors over 6 months. One group only walked. The other performed seated resistance band rows. The rowing group improved their spinal posture by an average of 8 degrees, while the walking group showed zero improvement. On top of that, the rowing group reported 63% less upper back and neck pain. To perform this exercise, sit upright in a chair with your feet flat and about hip width apart. Loop a resistance band around the soles of your feet and hold one end in each hand. Start with your arms extended in front of you and the band under light tension. Pull your elbows straight back while drawing your shoulder blades together, as if you are trying to pinch something between them near your spine. Hold that squeeze for 2 seconds, then slowly return your arms forward under control. Do 15 repetitions per set, 3 sets total. The last few reps should feel like real effort. If they don't, it's time for a stronger band. Surgeons frequently recommend this movement after spinal procedures because strong back muscles support and stabilize the spine, keeping it aligned and protected. And now, we arrive at the exercise I've saved for last on purpose. This is the one that research tied directly to how long you live, and it is the single most important movement you can practice. I'm talking about sit-to-stand squats. If I had to pick just one exercise for you to keep for the rest of your life, this is it without question. A landmark study published in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology followed over 2,000 adults older than 51 for roughly 6 years. The researchers discovered that individuals who could not rise from a seated position without using their hands were 5 to 6 times more likely to die during the study period. This movement engages almost every major muscle in your lower body simultaneously. Your quadriceps straighten the knees, your glutes drive the hips forward, your calves stabilize the ankles, your core keeps you balanced, and your back holds your spine upright. Very few exercises activate all of these systems at the same time. What makes this even more powerful is that it mirrors the movements you already do every day. Standing up from a chair, getting out of a car, rising from the toilet, or getting up after sitting for a long time. Training this pattern builds strength that transfers directly into your real life. Remember the 19% bone density increase I mentioned at the very beginning? This is the exercise responsible for that. Adults over 65 who practiced sit-to-stand movements 3 times per week showed a 19% increase in bone density in the hips and femurs. That is remarkable because bone density normally declines with age. Yet this one movement sends enough mechanical pressure through your bones to signal them to rebuild and strengthen. Orthopedic surgeons now prescribe this as preventive care, and many of them assess a patient's ability to perform this movement before approving elective joint procedures, because patients with stronger legs and denser bones consistently recover better after surgery. To do this, sit in a sturdy chair with your feet flat and positioned slightly wider than hip width. Cross your arms over your chest, lean forward slightly, then drive through your heels to stand fully upright. Pause for 1 second at the top. Then lower yourself slowly back down over 4 seconds. Let your body barely touch the chair and go right back up without fully resting. Start with 10 repetitions and work toward 3 sets of 15. When that becomes manageable, hold a light weight against your chest or slow the lowering phase even further to 6 or 8 seconds for an added challenge. Do this every other day. Within about 4 weeks, everyday movements start to feel noticeably easier, from getting up off the couch to climbing a flight of stairs, and that confidence in your own body starts to come back. If staying strong and independent as you age matters to you, and I know it does, please subscribe so you don't miss the guidance I share regularly on exactly this kind of topic. So let me bring this all together. These 5 chair exercises reflect what many orthopedic surgeons wish every adult over 60 would do consistently. Walking absolutely still has its place, particularly for your heart. But when it comes to preserving your independence, preventing dangerous falls, protecting your bone density, and holding on to the muscle strength that lets you live your life on your own terms, you need targeted resistance work. The research could not be more clear on that point. You do not need a gym membership. You do not need expensive machines. You do not need any prior fitness experience. A solid chair, an inexpensive resistance band, and a few sessions per week is all it takes. Start with the calf raises and get comfortable with those first. Then add the knee extensions. Move through each exercise at a pace that works for your body. By the time you reach the sit to stand squats, you will be ready and your body will thank you for it. Your future strength is not determined by your age. It is determined by the choices you make starting now.